Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Live from Capitol Hill, it's the 26th of May, year of our Lord 2020, a beautiful spring day, late spring day, we should say, in the nation's capital as America starts to reopen. And we know that, gentlemen, because the New York Stock Exchange has now reopened today, although a lot more artificial intelligence than they have humans. 25% of folks down the New York Stock Exchange. New York Stock Exchange is up. The President of the United States is leading his Twitter feed today with that. Jack Maxey, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam, a lot to get into on another War Room Pandemic. I want to welcome everybody throughout the world, particularly our listeners and viewers in China. We'll be in Mandarin later in the day, and we'll get to all of our distribution platforms. But now on the podcast, over 8.5 million downloads and over 100 million views worldwide. I want to thank everybody making it such a well-supported show, so I want to thank you. Later in the day, second hour, we're going to have Dr. Paulo Zanate from Brazil, talked about some testing down there in the president's favorite therapeutic, hydroxychloroquine. Also, we're going to have Roger Kimball in from The Spectator and Encounter Books, and Dr. Peter Morici, the economist, about how America can stand up to China. So all of that in hour two. Hour one, we got a full hour. We had Sunday shows the whole weekend. The president, we're getting close to 100,000. I think we'll pass it. Maybe even during the show by noon, 100,000 casualties, 40 million people unemployed, and the President of the United States starting to punch back.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we've talked about on the show all the time are why the Sunday shows are so important. I know most folks don't watch the Sunday shows. And if you have a normal life, you probably don't need to. But here's why it matters, because what is said on these Sunday shows then gets repackaged and delivered on Monday. Well, with a 3-day weekend. That's
the railhead. For people who understand this out there in the audience, that's the railhead of how the narrative is driven for the week.
Right. So it's all just repackaged. And so if something is said or some narrative starts to take hold on Sunday, it gets replayed on Monday. Well, this week, now it's getting replayed for a third day. And really, three main things are taking over. The media is trying to politicize the mask debate.
No, but not just the mask. Everything about this now is politicized. Both the pandemic part, the economic recovery part, the financial crisis, the geopolitics. Now, we always said politics is going to be the fifth vertical, but now you can see whether it's Dominic Cummings, which we'll talk about in the United Kingdom, or in Brazil. We're going to lead with a MSNBC piece about Brazil that doesn't put Bolsonaro in the most favorable light. And we've got and now everything here, whether it's the Memorial Day, whether it's going to a wall, everything's politicized. And look, we're partisan. We've tried to be nonpartisan, and we will continue to be. But you got to bring up the fact that it is now seeped into 90 days into this pandemic. It has seeped into everything.
Yeah, and I want to go right to Martha Raddatz on This Week from Sunday and play right off the top. Here is how they're packaging and politicizing everything that President Trump does.
And, John, I want to start with you. The partisan messaging on coronavirus is clear. The president travels the country, goes to briefings without a mask, pushing for bolder reopening steps, while Democrats largely urge caution, and Joe Biden remains in his basement. How do you see that strategy playing out for President Trump?
So that's Raddatz setting it up. And you can see that's not even so much of a question. I mean, that's basically a statement. Then let's go to former Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, on Meet the Press. Hear how he talks about President Trump and politicizing this.
The president, whether it's the issue of the mask or things he says in his daily briefings, is sending the message explicitly or implicitly that he doesn't believe his scientists. He doesn't always believe Dr. Fauci.
So right there, so he's saying, so first of all, let's put Dr. Moving Goalposts to the side for a moment. We've had our issues with him. But you see the way the Sunday shows, whether it's a direct thing with Martha Raddatz and her opening rant or a guest like a Jay Johnson, and they go through, over and over, it's the wash, rinse, repeat of saying Trump is politicizing this. I didn't see President Trump do anything this weekend to politicize.
Do you two guys buy that? I just don't buy it. I don't think not wearing the mask is saying he doesn't believe in what Fauci and what Dr. Birx are telling him, and others in Azar and that. I would like them to tell him more and be more specific. First off, what are they telling him? I'd like to know what they are telling him.
Maybe it's time we bring up that clip from Fauci about 2 months ago where he says, hey, wearing the mask really doesn't work. It's really just for emotional support, makes people be a little bit more aware.
So, and I don't get the subtext that he's telling the nation not to do that.
No, but this is what happens, though. They say it on the Sunday show, they repeat it on the Sunday shows, and they keep it going. And it's not even just on the mask. Let's look at the way that they went and dove into President Trump playing golf this weekend. Here's Dana Bash.
As for President Trump, he spent time Saturday tweeting and golfing at his club in Virginia.
And then right away to here's Martha Raddatz on This Week.
But President Trump is determined to get back to normal, golfing for the first time in more than 2 months as the total number of COVID-19 cases in the U.S. steadily climbs past 1.6 million.
So what you see there is the direct juxtaposition, President Trump playing golf, but we're reaching 1.6 million cases. We're right on the verge of 100,000 deaths. CNN right this moment says 98,223, with the direct implication that, well, whatever President Trump is doing, he's clearly just goofing off, not doing any work. Here's what they don't cover, though. This is Dr. Birx from This Week, and I thought this is a very informative clip talking about future planning.
And also, I want to be very clear to the American people. We are preparing for that potential fall issue, both in PPE, which is protective devices, both in ventilator stockpiles, and ensuring that we're really pushing on therapeutics and vaccine development so we can be ready if the virus does come back in a significant way.
But that's his scientist. That means he's listening to him, and they're doing the prep work that you need to do, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, you see from someone who's actually on the task force, President Trump, not just looking at right now.
The co-head of the task force, or the co-science,
the one who runs it, yes, right, is looking ahead. They're planning ahead and doing this, but you don't. But what you see from the media is this wash, rinse, and repeat that he's goofing off, that he's politicizing all this, that he's not taking it seriously. And then, Steve, to go and kind of bring this all together, Kevin Hassett. Who we love, Kevin Hassett. He's kind of our Ned Flanders of the economic world in the White House. Even when he has bad news, he says it with a smile, and he's great. He made this comment about the 20% that had folks kind of up in arms, and it said part of it was on the technical layer. Here's the clip that everyone jumped on this weekend.
You think unemployment is going to be even higher?
Yeah, it's going to be quite a bit higher. And you know, there were some technical things they kind of messed up, and on an economics lecture we'd go into them. But it could be if they fix the numbers and fix the thing that they mischaracterized last time, that you'll end up with a number north of 20% in May.
North of 20%.
That's
wow.
right.
Okay, north of 20%. That is a huge number. It's nothing inconsistent with what's been said previously. Hassett's
quite a bit higher, though.
A bit higher, but also a bit of their, what exactly are these? What exactly happened with the numbers?
I think what happened is that we're actually at 40 because I think there's 2 million that kind of slid under on some sort of program and they didn't count that they didn't technically count that into the filings. Last week there was 2.4 million. Somehow there's another 2, and this 2 is directly related to some sort of other way that you file, and that you just check another box, or it is a technicality, I think, because it rounds up now to over 40. But however, this is the thing with this. Not only do I think the president should go out and play golf, I think it's positive, not just a symbol of reopening the country. Hey, you can't keep a guy as active as Donald Trump cooped up in the White House for 90 days. It doesn't work. I mean, at 70 years old, you got to get an exercise. The golf is the way he gets exercise.
Well, and the other thing, too, that none of the folks on the media pointed out was the fact that New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania were all opening up golf. this last week.
Yes.
Virginia, where President Trump went and played his course, they never closed golf. And so which
that
one,
was never mentioned.
Right. So which one is it? And so it's this double standard, whether it be on politicizing masks, and we're going to get into later about how where the media is paying attention to beaches.
But this ties together the both of them. What I think not just the optics, but the reality. I'd like to have the president out playing golf, and I would like to have 100 people in the West Wing and over at EOB working on the jobs program. So when the president came back after he had his lunch at the golf course and relaxed, he came back in Hassett, who would have come off morning TV and said, hey, we had technical profits over 20%, but always pivot to the, but bang, bang, bang. Here's the 3 things we're doing on the jobs program. I think there's too much emphasis. It's positive. But the stock market is the net present value of future earning streams. People are seeing that we can get over this chasm. But part of getting over this chasm and because remember, most of this rally is still in tech stocks, right? It's a big weight to these particularly in the Dow Jones Industrial. It's a big weight to the big tech stocks. You're getting kind of a little bit of a false read because these are not companies that employ gazillions of people. We've still got to bridge that chasm. I like the way Hassett goes out and tells it like it is, even though sometimes he hesitates about doing it. To the 20%, it's not rah-rah, it's not cheerleading. However, every time, because what they're going to do is just pull the 20% and pull that, and that's all you saw of Kevin Hassett all weekend.
And to that point, final clip for this segment.
Yeah.
Here's what Kevin Hassett said that nobody is picking up on.
Okay, good.
And so what's going to happen, in all likelihood, is that you're going to see the second quarter drop a lot and the third quarter skyrocket.
So he's saying right there, third quarter is going to skyrocket. In fact, in Politico this morning, Ryan Lizza and Daniel Littman have a story about the economic rebound or the election that Democrats fear. And what that is that the economy is going to come roaring back. Kevin Hassett, same person who on the level said, hey, it's going to be north of 20, which very much falls into the anti-good category, says, and he, by the way, Kevin Hassett's not going to go out and say something that he doesn't believe. If he goes out and says it's going to skyrocket.
Kevin's the former head of CEA under President Trump in the first 2 years of the administration. Yes. He was there as the architect, one of the architects of the tax cut and the roaring jobs-led recovery.
But you don't see that clip. I mean, I watched this morning. I watched Morning Joe. I have fewer brain cells for it. I watched, and again, it should be Morning Joe and Karen. We'll get into that later. I watched CNN.
But it's not even that covered on Amazon. Here's the thing. No. In the political piece, let's go to that. We ought to link to that. They're also talking a little bit about optics because if you drop so far, President Trump can then pivot in the third quarter and say, well, I've got 40% growth in jobs. We got to get beyond this. Is in President Trump's like this. It's not about optics. It's about he built against huge headwinds a jobs-based recovery. And when I say huge headwinds, one of the things he never gets credit for, and this is particularly pertinent this day, remember, pandemic triggers economic crisis, financial crisis. When President Trump took over as the inauguration day, the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve was $4.5 trillion. That is from 2008. What President Obama did had the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. The most progressive president in American history had the greatest concentration of wealth. Why? To bail out in 2008, to stop deflation, they flooded the zone with liquidity, okay? President Trump, what he never gets credit for, those first 2 years, I think it was in November of 2018 or in the spring of 19 when we were negotiating the China deal, he had taken $1 trillion off the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. He had done quantitative tightening. He never talks about this. The guys around him never talk about this. He took $1 trillion. And my point is all of that growth came into the headwind of slowly taking letting the air out of the potential speculative bubble you had. Now, because of certain issues with the New York Fed, they had to start doing some quantitative easing basically in the spring and summer, and particularly the fall of 2019 to kind of help the repo market. So that balance sheet started to go back up, still under $4 trillion, I think it was, before this hit. He has always been a guy that the Fed, and this is why I think he tweeted out one time, not just were they slow on the interest rates, but particularly they were doing quantitative tightening when everybody else was doing quantitative easing. Now, the problem is, we'll get to this in a second, everybody's running around and they're talking about the optics of it. We got to start talking about the reality of it. And this is why I think that there's no problem playing golf, and I think that's just a cheap shot by the media, right? But you got to come back and say, hey, in Hassett, I'll be saying, bang, this is jobs, bang, this on jobs, bang, this on jobs. We're going to get back to all of this, the economy, the pandemic, the geopolitics of it all next on War Room Pandemic.
Pain, swelling, stiffness. When your hands hurt, you can't function. Until now. Introducing the new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology to give you more power, more control, and more agility than ever. Our most advanced copper-infused compression fabric woven into an ultra-lightweight performance glove that fits like a second skin to support relief and recovery of sore muscles and painful joint stiffness. And new Sure Grip bands built in to provide a strong, non-slip grip for more power and control.
You need total control of your hands when you're doing anything with construction. Your hands are your livelihood. The Copperfit gloves are great. The grip is outstanding here with these different ribs. It makes my hand a lot more usable. It just feels like you're just ready to start the job.
The gloves have been a game changer for me. They help with flexibility and pain and soreness. They allow me to do my job even better.
Breathable wicking fabric with an open finger design for full range of motion, feel, and control.
They relieve my pain. When I grab something, I'm not in pain. The support or whatever magic these things do, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter to me what it is. It works.
I get a lot of pain, and it can make it difficult to do the smallest thing. While I'm wearing this, I do not have any pain. I can use it on the keyboard. I can use my phone. I drive with it. I sleep with it. I love this glove.
The new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology. Relief from painful muscle and joint soreness. Guaranteed or your money back. Call 1-800-984-5571 or on the web at getcopperfitgloves.com for only $19.99. Order right now and your shipping is free.
I tried it. I use it. I know it works.
Copperfit gloves definitely just make my life better.
I've used Copperfit before. This has helped my hands so much. These things work.
Feel better with copper-infused compression. Ask for it by name. Copperfit compression gloves.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to Capitol Hill in our nation's capital. This is War Room Pandemic, now sponsored by NetSuite by Oracle, the largest, #1 cloud business system in the world, whether you've got $1 million in revenue or $100 million or even smaller than that. NetSuite is the software package for the entrepreneur. We're going to be talking more about that later in the broadcast. You also if you go to the War Room website, you'll see the link right to NetSuite on the 7 actions businesses need to take during this economic crisis. It's something everybody ought to go to. Even if you don't have your own business, if you're thinking of starting one, kind of walks you through how you got to start thinking like an entrepreneur to both maximize your value creation and mitigate your risk. Now, as an entrepreneur, I was up actually in New York and then in Connecticut over the weekend. Coming from D.C., and I left here Saturday after the Memorial Day special. Saturday we did the Chinese. We did the magnificent Chinese special, and particularly focused on Matt Pottinger's May 4th speech. It was incredible. Persecution of the Christians. We had specials on Memorial Day, as you guys know, all weekend. Jack, I'm sitting here, and Vish, I'll bet you 10% of the people, including we started to see some actual activity on Capitol Hill for the first time. Beautiful this Saturday. We started seeing people coming back and walking like they normally do to the Supreme Court and the plaza around the Capitol. Only 10% of the people had masks. And this is, I got to tell you, folks, Capitol Hill, this district, is not Trump country. It's got to be an 80-20. It's got to be an 80-20 breakdown. How about in Northern Virginia?
Maybe 10% masks. And keep in mind, this was we talked about this a few weeks ago. I didn't see anybody without a mask a few weeks ago, but in bright blue Arlington, Virginia, where I think Hillary got 81 or 82%. I mean, it was there maybe 10% were wearing masks, and people are running. They're passing each other. The streets, the sidewalks were packed.
Now, in small villages of Connecticut, which are the suburbs where all the financial people live, people were all in masks. It was amazing. However, people went down to beaches and stuff like that. No mask, no separation. They're at the beach. This is a little bit, let's go around the country. I know that the president's devolved this power back to the governors. My question, and people in Connecticut and New York and D.C. kept asking me, what are the different rules? Who's doing what? In Connecticut, they're still essentially locked down until in New York until sometime in mid-June. I mean, they're doing small openings. The governor of Virginia, who's been like the nanny state, he's doing it, but then he's out taking selfies, I think at Virginia Beach, with it's just they talk about President Trump's optics. What about the optics of these other, and the governor of Michigan? I don't want to pick on somebody that's, because I realize people have families and got to do stuff. But the whole riot started because the hunters and the guys with the boats, right? How can I get the virus out on my boat in some great lake, right?
Right. But let's be clear about what's going on. The way that's being portrayed in the media are folks in red states, particularly they're pointing out the party in the Ozarks, Lake Ozark. All the Marty Bird memes were going wild this weekend. Ozark, great show on Netflix, by the way, the beginning of season 3. But
Jason's looking for a guest spot.
Oh, yeah. I might end up there at this rate. Hey, Marty, you need a deputy? I'm here, brother. But here's what they're showing. What they're basically saying is if you're in a red state, you're some kind of knuckle-dragging troglodyte Bible thumper, and I'm going to tell you why I brought up that reference in a moment here. But if you're in a blue state, you're doing everything right. What the media didn't show you is that the beaches in Newport Beach, California, packed. You see Coney Island, packed. You see all
Connecticut, all the place, all of the
packed.
Jersey Shore. Come on.
But let's hear. This was so bad.
Maryland, things in Maryland.
I flipped on Anderson Cooper last night, and they had a correspondent down in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and you just got to hear this segment to believe it.
Across the street, the beach is jammed. Groups are supposed to be 6 feet away from each other. Police work to enforce that. The groups are also ordered to only consist of people who live in the same household. There is no active effort to enforce that. Bailey Carr is 21. She just graduated from college.
I mean, everybody's got to go somehow. You know what I mean?
You mean die?
Yeah, but in a way, I don't want to die, but I mean, if that's what God has in store for my life, then that's okay.
Okay, what they're doing right there, and then they cut that and then they move on to the next thing. They're trying to show here are the dumb Southern Christians being idiots, passing around that corona. Well, we slick, atheist Northeasterners are all being safe and following the rules.
Because we're database, science-based, secular-based. We understand reason. These guys are all
right. And you literally have the correspondent there with the mask on the beach. No one else on the beach has a mask on. But they cut that clip so tight. And again, she's a 21-year-old gal, recent college graduate, obviously well steeped in her faith.
Yeah, very sincere.
But they're making it sound like
no, they're trying to make her look like her crazy.
Yes, they're trying to make her look. And this is intentional. This isn't. This is selective editing done to make it look like people. But when you look at I think it was the New York Times or someone had it over the weekend, of the 25 rural counties in America where the averages are higher than normal, it's because either A, they have meatpacking plants, or B, they have prisons. If you don't have either of those and you're in rural America, you're not dealing with this. Also,
getting back to it is not a political ideology. People want to. Do we have our open? It's rapidly smartly, and safely. Regardless of your political ideology, those people in Newport Beach, California are not all Trump supporters. The people coming to these beaches on the East Coast and in Maryland, up in these are not all Trump supporters. It's summer. It's Memorial Day weekend. Americans we're active people. It's action, 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 right? People wanted Steve Cortez. I was talking to Steve all weekend. He said, hey, somebody's got to talk to the governor and the mayor of Chicago. And we're in Chicago on FM 99.1, 103.9. I know we got a big audience out there. Said, this is just not going to roll. It's summertime in Chicago. People want to go out. They want to congregate. They want to get on with it, right? I think some of these governors, and this is what gets back even to the CDC guidance, I think if you're going to do it, rapidly, smartly, and safely, if you're going to devolve it back to the governors and to like the mayor of Chicago, which I think – I was reading one of the stories of the weekend. She sent them. I think the police went to some church in Southside Chicago. Hey, those guys are going to hold, right? They're holding. They're not. They missed Easter. They feel bad enough about that, but now with the beautiful spring coming. So I think these governors somehow, and you see in Virginia's supposed to be. It's still quasi locked down, but in Northern Virginia, you're walking around. Here in the district, I think we have the longest shut down here. I believe technically we're still shelter in place. They ain't sheltering on Saturday. These are liberals and progressives walking around up to the thing, and they're not trying to be hypocrites. They're just, hey, it's May. It's a beautiful day out. I got the kids. They can't keep inside anymore. We got to get out and do things, right?
People have cabin fever, and I think one of the things we have to remember is Donald Trump passed the baton to the governors, okay? He's given a rough outline on what he thinks should happen from the CDC. It's very broad purposely. But really, it seems to me that the governors need to communicate to their own people about what's going on in the state of Connecticut and elsewhere.
Hashtag war and pandemic. I want to hear your voice. But do you guys, let's talk about it. Do you think that's working? Do you think there's enough? As you said up there, one thing that struck me, how many intelligent people or people that follow the news and were asking me, hey, what are the different rules? I said, hey, don't ask me. You're a native of the state. I think I know, but I don't. Everybody's saying, I don't really know what the rules are. What are we supposed to do? Even here in D.C., we think we're in lockdown. We're still doing what we normally do, but you come out onto. I'm sure today there are going to be more people wandering around here.
We got a little message from one of our listeners. I just want everyone to know that our entire listening group is not from Gulfport, Mississippi. We got Toon Talk from California. Says he was at the beach at La Jolla all day Saturday and Sunday. Very few masks, maybe only amongst the very elderly.
Also, this is where, like de Blasio in New York, which they had big turnouts on Coney Island. I still haven't seen, and I haven't seen the science yet, that in the water. I know it goes on surfaces. I haven't seen this on the surface of the water. How do they make this leap that they're going to pull you out of the water? That's where it gets so absurd that people just go, these rules must not make any sense. I'm just going to go to. Now, I will say, and we saw this, New York City is still kind of it's still like out of a zombie movie. It's still pretty stunning. The traffic. I know Mike Allen of Axios, Mike, who's a Southern boy, he said that 95 on Friday afternoon was bumper to bumper all the way down to South Carolina. I can tell you that was not the case going up on the Jersey Turnpike, which normally is thing. And we came back at what would traditionally be the worst time to come back. Totally empty. So it's different aspects of the country. But I think the governors, if Trump has devolved this power back to him, where the media ought to be all over is where are the guidance from the governors and the specificity of the governors? Because if they have it, they're not promulgating it out so that people know this.
I just want to jump in on the masks thing real quick, because I've noticed the same thing. I think it was a couple of weeks ago we were talking about it, and I said here on Capitol Hill I was walking around and it was at least 50% of the people were wearing it, and it was about a month ago. I think one of the things people are confused about as well is, well, do I need to wear this if I'm just walking out on the street? And it's just not clear. The guidance isn't clear. Local guidance isn't clear. And people are just saying, well, actually, if you go down to the store, like the corner store, these masks are like $20 for a pack of 7 or something. And people are just going, why would I be putting a new fresh one on every single day just to walk around, get my paper from a thing? And nobody quite knows.
Okay, so this technically, it's still the social distancing. We're here in the district. It's social distancing, right? But if you do it, if the mask is for when you come within social distancing, when they're in your sphere of influence, right? So in the walking around, and I've noticed that people do have them in their side pockets or whatever, that's perfectly acceptable. Although the media kind of picks out that if they don't have a mask on at any time, and I got to tell you, I think what's totally absurd, and it's going to be looked at absurd, and I think this is only hurting the media. I don't think when you're looking into a camera and you're doing a shot, I don't think you need to have a mask on. I think it's absurd. I just think it's absurd.
Yeah,
it's a
virtue signaling.
And virtue, but you're also showing you're kind of irrational. It's not the girl reading the New Testament down in Gulfport. You're actually, it's supposed to be social distancing. You're X-Mount from your.
Although I do have to give the one gentleman credit who told BuzzFeed, there's no law when you're drinking the claw.
We'll be back. War and Pandemic in just a second.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. MicroTouch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro-precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full-body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
This is the kind of card that has America talking. With it, people with Medicare are getting all-in-one coverage for their doctor visits, hospital care, prescription drugs, and more. This kind of insurance, called Medicare Part C, may also cover dental care, eyeglasses, hearing aids, fitness programs, vitamins, even healthy meals and rides to the doctor. With this kind of coverage, you do not need a Medicare supplement insurance plan. You will access your benefits through your Medicare Part C plan for one low and oftentimes $0 monthly plan premium. You deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits. Call now for free information that may help you get more coverage for less money. There is no obligation to enroll. Whether for yourself or someone you love, call the number on the screen now. Call now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War and Pandemic. We're going to go in the next hour to China and to Brazil. Right now, we're going to pivot from the shores of the Gulf of Mexico down there in Lower Alabama and in Pensacola to the UK. Although we got some breaking news already, don't we, Jack? As we're talking, Phil Murphy's listening.
Phil Murphy just announced that after July 7th, you can have in-person graduations in New Jersey as long as you maintain social distancing to an extent, and you do it outside. And this is a big change. So, just as you said, we're watching states now.
I think Murphy and Ned Lamont, and I knew Phil, I think I've said before at Goldman, really good guy, super progressive liberal. However, I think they're going to be forced to do this because I think people are just going to start doing it. I mean, as this thing warms up next week and you get into a beautiful June on the East, it's going to become increasing pressure. And people are going to sit there going, hey, why am I missing my kid's graduation? We've worked on this for 16 years and he doesn't get a graduation or she doesn't get a graduation. I think this is kind of a, regardless of your ideology, a populist revolt that people are going to say, or I need more specificity of why we're still doing this, right? Remember, we said the whole time in the rapidly, smartly, and safely, it's a convergence of testing, therapeutics, and we're going to get into that in the next hour, of hydroxychloroquine and others, and also the antibodies testing. But particularly when we say smartly, it's now we know it's the meatpacking processing plants, it's the prisons, it's our elderly care. All of those, we've become a lot smarter than that, and so you got to be targeted on this. You're just not going to you can't just keep this country locked down. We're too energetic, right, to do that. You just can't keep locked in place. Let's go. The UK too, our mother country. I've never seen a firestorm. There wasn't this big a firestorm when Boris wandered around the hospital, kind of heckling, doing a heckle of, oh, this thing's just a cold, right? When he got it, he ain't heckling now. But Dominic Cummings, right? Who is the Sith Lord of British politics right now? I don't want to say the Steve
from another mother.
I don't want to say the Steve Bannon of.
Is he the Voldemort? Is that a good
he's
British
the Jason. He's a combo of Jason Miller and Raheem Kassam. I'll say he's not to the Sith Lord level yet, right?
Well, I just
explain who this guy is and why are they having a meltdown over here.
Just two things before we jump to that. I have to come back to the last segment. I have to tell every man out there, you should not be drinking White Claw. That is not a drink that men drink. Stop it. Put it down. Pick up a Johnny Walker Black. Okay. Frankly, Vish is saying he drinks it. Case in point. Okay. now the second thing is on the masks. Very quickly, you know how you get the media to drop this whole mask stuff? Put Free Hong Kong across the front of your mask. Believe me,
wow.
They will stop in a heartbeat.
Raheem Kassam, you're thinking this through.
Actually, I stole that from the YouTube live chat.
That's I tell you guys are fantastic. Keep giving it to us and give it to us on War Room Pandemic. Remember, the world is actually listening to you. You're having a huge impact. That's something that we'll get back to this in the next hour. Something that didn't come across the media's lips all weekend is Hong Kong. It's unbelievable. But
what if Kaylee gave her next press briefing with Obamagate, wearing a mask that says Obamagate?
Is it one of those masks that opens as well?
Yeah.
So Dominic Cummings is, basically Boris Johnson's Steve Bannon. There isn't a sort of better way to put it there. He's the chief advisor to Boris Johnson. He's really the guy in the back of making sure Brexit actually happens rather than what the political establishment want, which is to drag it on, water it down, dilute it, add all sorts of extensions, working with you. And Dominic Cummings isn't exactly a fan of mine, and I'm no fan of his. But when I saw the way the media was treated, I mean, you say that there hasn't been, this sort of reaction to Boris's behavior when he was going around hospitals, shaking hands and laughing about it, and then he got coronavirus, and then he was in the intensive care unit. But actually, I mean, this level of scandal in the UK that they have applied to what Dominic Cummings is said to have done, and we'll go through it right now, is at the level of Profumo. I mean, they didn't have this kind of reaction when the government announced that thousands upon thousands of girls had been systematically groomed and raped in towns across the entirety of the United Kingdom. You didn't have a behavior like this from the establishment media. Dominic Cummings, there's this period of between late March and early April where Dominic Cummings and his wife drove 260 miles to their parents' farm in the north of England. And basically because Cummings and his wife were both ill or had symptoms of coronavirus. Remember, this is when the Prime Minister was out with it. This is when a lot of people in Downing Street had tested for it.
Top four guys in Downing Street.
And Cummings was told that his wife was sick, so he rushes home and starts to make plans for what they do about their 4-year-old child if they're both incapacitated. Now, if you're Dominic Cummings, you don't have very many friends in London, right? A right-wing Brexiteer isn't exactly going to have neighbours upon whose doors he can knock to elicit free childcare for a 4-year-old if they're both sick. So what Dominic Cummings does as a responsible father is gets in the car. He can't go to Downing Street because his wife's got symptoms, he's got symptoms, so he gets in the car, drives up without stopping to his parents' place up in Durham, and they live on a farm, in different house to their parents, and they stay there for a week or so. On the idea of coming back, what they do is he drives out a little bit, because actually we're now starting to learn that coronavirus can maybe impact people's eyesights in the immediate term coming out of it. And so he says, I don't know if I can drive back properly, so I'm going to drive a little bit first and figure it out. So he drives to this castle. They walk around a little bit, totally socially distanced. All of the evidence that we've heard so far has proved that. But the media whipped up this massive firestorm over the weekend. Government advisor breaks lockdown.
4 days.
Drives to a 4 days news cycle.
It's more intense than Trump playing golf.
Absolutely. Oh.
Here's the difference. Here's to put it in perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, politics is not left and right. Politics is nationalist versus globalist. Dominic Cummings was late to the party on Brexit. Remember, Brexit and the Trump Revolution 16 are inextricably linked. The second Brexit vote, which was the Tory vote, Dominic Cummings came. It was Farage and Kassam and these early UKIP guys that were fighting for Brexit, the working class people. Cummings was late to the party, but he was the guy that did think of the workaround of the British civil service. The reason, and they're still fighting. This is the key note. They don't want out of Brexit now. They're going to use this. They're never going to quit. I keep telling people this is why even a second term with President Trump, they're never going. Second term is absolutely essential. They're never going to quit. And this is a perfect example. They have blown this thing up so much because this is the globalists at the BBC and the British media on a guy he's an apostate because he was kind of late to the Brexit thing. Well, but now they want to make sure they do destroy him.
He wasn't necessarily even late. He was there. He was there, but it was kind of this associate membership, watered down membership version.
Yes.
It's like we showed up to the party with Johnny Black and he showed up with White Claw, right? But I will defend him on this because as a responsible father trying to find childcare for his son,
yes.
You can't. But the media, the hypocrisy of all of this is they are gaggled outside of his house every day, 50 deep, not socially distanced, shoving microphones and everything in his face, demanding that he resigns because he quote unquote breached the government lockdown. This is a process we call doorstepping in the United Kingdom in journalism, where you literally just camp outside the person's house and try and get a quote from them. Now, I want to play the clip from this show, War and Pandemic, from 49 days ago. What did I say when Boris Johnson was in hospital, when he was out? What did I warn about? Let's play this clip. Dominic Cummings, who was really the power in Downing Street, really the power behind the Prime Minister, and this kind of strange thought leader. Who
is he like a chief of staff, lead strategist?
Yeah,
chief strategist.
Chief strategist.
Yeah. He's the evil genius,
right? And he has also been at home in quarantine for weeks now, so you don't really have anything now. As anybody would know who's watched Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister over the years, this is where the civil service, where the bureaucrats really try and occupy.
Who didn't want to leave. It was the British Civil Service that kept them in after the Brexit vote. The reason they never got out was the British Civil Service fought it.
Yeah, and Mark Sedwell, who was originally going to be the guy that took over here as the ambassador to the United States, is now the cabinet secretary, is being said to have amassed power in the last couple of days, really trying to bureaucratize and centralize the pushback as the politicians drop like flies. So that was nearly 50 days ago. That was 49 days ago here on War and Pandemic. And a couple of weeks later, The Telegraph, and this is an article I found this weekend, popped a story by Jeremy Warner which says this: a deal to extend the transition, the EU, the Brexit transition, a deal to extend the transition in light of the crisis had been all but agreed at an official level. The EU was to have spared the UK's blushes by proposing it rather than the other way round. This would allow the UK government to present the concession as a favour to the EU rather than a climb down. And here's the kicker, quote, but then Dominic Cummings, the Prime Minister's chief advisor, returned and the plan concocted by underlings while he and Boris Johnson were laid out on their sick beds was scuppered. So let's be very clear about what's happening here. We've talked about this whole hour. We've talked about the politicization of this. We've talked about the media hypocrisy about this. And this case of Dominic Cummings is a microcosm of all of that. They are going after him now because they had planned in the background an extension of the Brexit transition timeline, and he came back to work and scuppered it.
Brexit was June 26th of 2006.
June 23rd.
June 23rd of 2016. We're almost at the 4-year anniversary. We've had everything kind of take place informally, but it's still not. It's supposed to be December 31st of the year. Finally, they're going to fight this tooth and nail. And they're going to use this now, this pandemic, and you've got to be, you've got to do, all the countries got to be together. This shows you that if you're nationalist, you're a troglodyte, you're down in the Gulf of Mexico on an Alabama beach, hoping Jesus saves you, right? This is what they're going to play. This is why the Cummings thing, which is so over the top, right? And this gets back to, I want to go back to the optics of
Well, just quickly, it's madness. I'll give the audience one final example.
How many people were outside the doorstep? Because you see from the other side,
about 50. It's about 50 people, all crowded together, trying to get microphones in his face. A few of them are wearing masks.
Is he showing up and going to work every day?
Yeah, he's going to work now. He's going to Downing Street.
Do they just follow him in a big pack?
They just follow him in a big pack.
They do like what they used to do with Crooked, her campaign, where they would take the rope and put it around the reporters?
No, but that's the
I remember the parade. But that was, I think it was a Memorial Day parade.
Poor Maggie got roped in.
But here's the crazy thing about all of this as well is that they had a Q&A with Dominic Cummings this weekend, and I encourage people to watch it because he kind of did that Arnie Vinnick thing from The West Wing where he just sat there for ages and ages and ages and took every single question until the media exhausted itself. But you look at the question they asked him, well, did you stop on the way back to London? Yes, we stopped because my child needed to urinate in the woods. Okay, and how long did you stop for? Well, hold on a minute. Now you're prosecuting how long my child urinates for in the woods. Like, let it go. It's ridiculous.
Unbelievable. This is the same thing that they did this weekend with President Trump. Instead of really getting to the real issues, and I think the real issues is let's get to the governors, right? Let's get to the governors and find what's happening. And I hate to pivot to Nurse Ratched, but the governor of Michigan. Note to Democratic Party, I don't think I'd put her on the ticket, right?
Well, and look, I mean, keep in mind.
I know she's being vetted.
Well, I think she's dead now. I mean, politically speaking, not only that shelter in place being extended out till June 12th is a huge deal.
No University of Michigan football?
No.
You want to have Michigan as a Trump win? Just cancel University of Michigan football.
Big story in the Detroit News this morning. Craig Mauger writes it. Purported Northern Michigan boat launch request fuels controversy for Whitmer. Apparently, her husband called up the dock manager and said, "Hey, can you go and put my boat down?" The guy's like, "You're calling too late. We don't have enough time." He goes, "Well, I am the husband of the governor." So he straight out just dropped it, and the owner went,
"Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, do you know who I am?
I'm connected with people.
So I guess we'd say here, yacht rocked.
So Nurse Ratched's husband calls up to get his boat out there. I guess she didn't look for advice when she shut down all the boating. Okay, be back in a second. War room pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows, and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive, and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on My Pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99. Or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Look, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on America's Voice, which is the platform of the Trump Revolution, the streaming platform, they're now Dish Channel 219. On Newsmax TV, the guys do a fantastic job replaying this a little later in the evening with some B-roll on it and a little tighter editing. I want to thank them. As we know, we've been talking about, we're going to get into this segment again. As the country opens up, people are trying to figure out what the rules are. Here's what we can tell you. We live in an age of uncertainty right now. That's why if you're an entrepreneur, you need NetSuite. It is a product of Oracle, which is the #1 cloud-based system in the world, whether the business you've got is $1 million or $100 million in revenue, no matter what the size. We've got the 7 action steps. You can go to our website right now. At the top of the page, click through, it goes right to NetSuite, the #1 software package. And this takes you through everything. The financial, what have we been talking about the entire time here? Metrics, modeling. They show you how to model. They've got the financial models, talk about your inventory, your human resources, everything. Very proud to be sponsored for them because they're the perfect tool for you as an entrepreneur, even if you're thinking about starting your own business. And as you know, we get across this economic chasm. A lot of people are going to be changing the rules, and people are going to be saying, hey, maybe I just do this myself. So get to NetSuite, go online, then you can talk to a individual NetSuite representative. Just go online, go to the 7 action steps during the pandemic in this economic crisis, and I think you'll learn a lot. So NetSuite from Oracle, and you go to netsuite.com/Bannon. Want everybody to go there and get on to the 7 action steps during this economic and financial crisis. Okay, I want to pivot back to a second because here's what I think is going to happen. You can see people are getting, and look, people, and this is the thing I think that the media, people in red states and conservative states and Trump supporters, they want it rapidly, safely, and smartly. Okay, people want to be safe. What they're looking at, I think, and this goes to why the Michigan story is an important story. And we haven't beaten her up. We haven't attacked her when the liberation. We had Sheriff Clark. We had a lot of our close brothers and sisters who are up there in Michigan and Wisconsin saying this ridiculous. I mean, Sheriff Clark's been one of the leaders of the Liberate movement up there. It was her, and she had very high opinion polling, right? In a critical state that President Trump's got to win. We won Michigan before, but she had these restrictions that seemed like they were over the top, and we didn't attack her at the time. But when you stop hunters from going out and enjoying the outdoors, and particularly boaters up in northern Michigan on the water, and you can't take your boat out, that's where the Liberate thing really started. It was that spark. The boating guys said, what are you doing? We understand if we're in close density in Detroit or down in Bloomington Hills or something like that, we can understand that. But you're talking about northern Michigan on the beautiful lakes and the Great Lakes, almost up in Canada. We can't even get our boats in the water. And when her husband does this, hey lady, You got to check with the guy. He's telling you, hey, I need my boat, right? What you're doing is nuts. I got to get a boat out, right?
Well,
he's just a boat. He's a typical Michigan guy. Wants his boat, right? Wants to take his guns out, probably go shoot something, right?
Well, I mean, here's the great thing. So in that Detroit news story, it writes, no longer visible to the public, Facebook post from North Shore Dock LLC and its owner, Tad Dowker, which, by the way, a guy named Tad running a boat launch is just so perfect.
So, Dowker, right? It was so perfect.
Yeah.
It was like a stage name.
And his answer to the governor's husband was perfect too. So deplorable.
Yeah, it says that and by the way, Whitmer's spokeswoman, Tiffany Brown, didn't confirm or deny Monday that the assertions were true.
Which means she confirmed it.
Which means she confirmed it. So here's what the gentleman, Tad, said in his Facebook post. This morning, I was out working when the office called me. There's a gentleman on hold who wanted his boat in the water before the weekend. Dowker posted, being Memorial Weekend and the fact that we started working 3 weeks late means there's no chance this is going to happen. Well, our office personnel had explained to this man, and he replied, I am the husband to the governor. Will this make a difference? So, by the way, they reached Tad Dowker.
not to Tad Dowker.
Not to Tad. They reached him on Monday afternoon, and he stood by the content of the post, but maintained that his company didn't have time to deal with the media requests coming in. But he stood by it. He's not backing down.
And what was it? What was his response?
Well, he said, I don't care who you are, governor's husband or not.
I'm surprised he was that polite. He should have said, hey, buddy, no offense. Do you talk to Nurse Ratched at all? That she's caused this, right? I can't get your boat in because of what she's caused here.
So this plus the June 12th shelter in place. And keep in mind, you have Indiana and Ohio. June 12th. Just extended it last week by another couple of weeks. When you have Indiana and Ohio opening like this, she's cooked.
There's also there's obviously certain areas, right? There's certain areas that I'm sure, intense, and you ought to focus on those. But you can't keep the whole place in lockdown. This shelter in place, I think Virginia's the same way. Virginia's mid-June, isn't it?
June 10.
June 10. I mean, it's just not going to work. We're at May 20. We've had an early Memorial Day. Right, this is the earliest Memorial Day can be, but people are ready to roll. Right,
and
they've missed an entire spring. They're ready to go.
Yeah, this story illustrates one of the things that I think is causing so much frustration, and it's on both sides of the aisle for the common man. This idea of the shutdown picking winners and losers, right? Like, my store is not a priority, but Costco is, right? So you have a small store where you might have 10 people sitting in it. And, you can socially separate, but Costco has 1,000 people in it. And I think that this is the same thing here with the boating. Like, okay, boating is okay, but swimming is not okay. It just becomes ridiculous.
This is why I think these governors, since he's devolved the power back to these guys, I think these governors, if they're going to continue to have this and keep their credibility, you got to come out with metrics. You got to come out with more specificity of exactly what you're talking about and why people should be doing it. I think the mainstream media I think they're going to lose complete credibility on this if they keep with the camera, with the person with the mask. People are just going to go, what are these guys doing, right? Now, if you're around Dominic Cummings and you're in the 50-person gaggle on his doorstep, harassing him, hey, you should have if that's what the British government say, everybody should have a mask on. They should be 6 feet apart. Even if you're bunched, you ought to have be on a ventilator, right? But if you're just sitting in front of the camera, I think you're going to lose it. Let's talk about the second hour. Okay, first off, #WarOnPandemic. I know nobody took the weekend off because we had great programming the entire time, including WABC had our Memorial Day special on for 2 hours on Sunday. So we want to thank. We were rolling 7 days a week. We want to thank everybody for that, particularly the folks at WABC and John Fredericks, American's Voice, helped us produce all the specials. Next hour, we've got Roger Kimball from The Spectator. We've got Dr. Peter Marici about how we can strike back at China. We've got Dr. Zanato from Brazil.
And the audience really wants Jack to do another shirt button up.
Oh, sorry about that.
2 shirts, Jack.
White claws. There is no law when you're drinking the claw.
Be back in a moment.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now, introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
Excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to